Hi, I'm Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. My website is teamchicago.tv. Teamchicago.tv. If you want to get a hold of me, my website, my email is teamdan@gmail.com. Teamdan45@gmail.com. I'm at the tool store. We're right off of Interstate 55 and Harlem Avenue, which is Illinois 43. We're 3 blocks north of the highway. The tool store is a unique place in Chicagoland. Any tool you may need for your car, your motorcycle, your boat, your truck, they got it here. This is the first place to call if you need a tool or any tool. They also work on motorcycles. They sell used motorcycles. They have ATV motorcycles. You just want to come out and hang out someday and look at great motorcycles, talk to great people. The tool store right here on Harlem Avenue, just south of Interstate, just north of Interstate 55. And don't forget my website, teamchicago.tv. As you look at the front of the tool store and at some of the used motorcycles they've got for sale, the reason I'm putting this show together as the 2019 riding season is upon us, as you look at this Yamaha Star and then a Ducati set up for touring, to get your bike ready to ride in 2019 after you let the bike sit all winter. There's a few things that you have to do to prep your bike. Dave Schultz, as we look at this Yamaha, a 2013 Yamaha, and then the Honda, Dave Schultz is going to tell us about checking out your carburation, charging your battery, and getting a Vespa scooter ready for the riding season.
Dave, I work at the tool store Go-Kart shop in Forest View, Illinois. We do a lot of repairs on various vehicles, but one of the biggest is the scooters. This is a Vespa, later model Vespa 150. Typical of people that don't do the proper maintenance on it, and in the long run it's going to cost them more money to not do the maintenance. Maintenance would be a lot cheaper. They had a battery tender on it for keeping the battery charged, keeping it from going dead over the winter. So they lose a little bit of power each day that they sit, until eventually they hit a point where they're so low they don't even come back. You can't even charge them back up. So you're talking about close to $100 for the battery there. You're better off just paying and having it winterized. Fuel system, same thing. If you winterize it, it's going to last for you. You're not going to have a problem. You're going to come out there in the spring, you unplug your tender, your fuel's all been prepped to sit for the winter, and it starts right up and you're ready to drive, instead of waiting to get it back from the repair shop and worrying about what the cost is going to be on that. Winterization is much cheaper, and it's just better for your vehicle in the long run. The gas nowadays has a lot of alcohol in it, and the additives, they call them oxygenates, and that's, for emissions. And the gas goes bad, starts to go bad in about 3 months. So by the time you actually pump it in from the gas station, who knows how far into that 3-month window you already are. Then you let it sit all winter, now you're in trouble, man. If you're not going to winterize it, then at least get out there once a week and start it. Let it run 15-20 minutes, charge everything up, get all the fluids going, and you could save yourself money doing it that way. If you want to be outside in the ice and cold, starting it up once a week. Maintenance, you save the money. A lot of people don't want to spend it. It might be $50, $75, but if you don't do it, come spring, now you're talking 150, who knows what it could be. So I had to replace the battery. This one was completely shot. They had the tender, they could have plugged it in, they didn't. They chose not to for whatever reason. you never know the story or the background. You got to try and piece it together as you're figuring out what's wrong with it. Now they got the battery replaced. Next will be the carburetor. I'm going to pull that off, and that's going to be varnished up inside. The jets and passages will be clogged, so it has to come completely apart and cleaned out thoroughly, readjusted, put back on, and dialed in for fine tune. There's a lot of things that need to be done in maintaining, whether it be a car, a motorcycle, a scooter, whatever it is, even your lawnmower. And most people just aren't knowledgeable as to, what needs to be done, what should be done. A lot of people come in, or they call out and they ask our advice, and of course, we'll take time, we'll explain it to them. But pretty much if you buy a brand new, you're gonna get a manual with it. And in that manual that most people just kind of toss on the side, I know even I do, when you take a look through there will be a section marked maintenance, and it'll tell you, once a year have this done, whatever. It gives you your whole maintenance schedule, what air pressure to run the tires at. A lot of people just normally assume, oh, it's the same as a car. Maybe not, depends on the vehicle. All that stuff is in your owner's manual. Just by looking through there, you could save yourself a bunch of money by keeping up with what the manufacturer recommends for oil changes and whatnot. It's probably your best bet. Educated consumer is a good consumer and a smart consumer.
Thank you, Dave, for your great advice. We'll be coming back, and he's going to show you how to rebuild a carburetor. As we look at this 1967 Suzuki Quad, Ron is going to continue our conversation on maintenance and how you can help yourself maintain your vehicles properly and what is a good source for parts.
My name's Ron. I'm a mechanic over at the tool store Go-Kart shop. And I got the Suzuki here. It's an 87 LT230E. Came in, it's been severely neglected. No brakes, axle bearings were blown out of it, the swing arm bearings were blown out of it, carburetor leaked. Just needed a good going over everything, pretty much. The machine was just neglected for the most part. Nothing was greased. There was never any maintenance done on it. Do your maintenance or it's going to end up like this. Bring in all your nightmare projects, we're up to the challenge. This was a pretty good nightmare.
So tell me what you had to do. What was the...
One of the axle hubs, they were riding it so long with the loose axle nut that it wore the splines down to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Axle is seized up in the bearings. I had to cut the axle to get it out. Would have been all right if somebody would have greased the axle once in a while. Brake pads were wore down to metal. You don't want to do that. Just keep an eye on that. That's cheap maintenance. Set of pads are $35. A new rotor is a lot more than that. Right. Luckily, he didn't tear up this rotor. Swing arm bearings were gone. There was no bearings left. Ended up having to replace the bearings. The swing arm
on the swing arm, and this is just brass bearings in there.
This
and there's no roller bearings. Oh, they do have roller bearings. Right.
They need to be greased once in a while.
Right.
Routine maintenance. Disassemble it, grease it, put it back together, replace anything that's worn. This never had anything replaced since new.
Right.
Along with all that, it got a full tune-up. Got the carburetor rebuilt, the new air filter, fresh oil and filter, and a spark plug. When this is all done, it's going to run like brand new.
All right. So, how did you get the axle? You told me you went to eBay. Is that how you found the part?
I got the axle used from a salvage yard. We got all the bearings and seals and brake pads through Tucker Rocky Distributing. We're a dealer for them, so we get just about anything we need.
So stuff that you need
we can get
is available.
Yes.
So all this Japanese quads and all that.
You can get them.
Right.
Most dealers won't work on name brand stuff that's older than 10 years. We'll work on anything.
Right.
You can be 25, 30 years old. We can get parts for it. We can fix it. We're not afraid of a challenge. I pulled the hood off just to check wiring. Everything seems pretty good up front. Everything's still nice and tight up in the front end. Bled out the brakes, some fresh brake fluid in there. It should stop now. Just it's gonna get a grease job up front for the most part. Nothing needs to be replaced up here. Tires are still decent. All the bearings, wheel bearings, brakes, rotors, all the control arm bearings, everything's nice and tight still, so he got lucky on that end. Just mostly in the rear end.
So, overall, what would you say then for a quad being this old, that it's lasted, has taken all this abuse and it's still running? How many miles do you think this got?
Oh, this thing's probably got 100,000 miles on it, maybe more. It's been around the block a few times. These are good, solid old quads. In my opinion, they're worth putting a few dollars into them. Get them back on the trails, we'll have some fun. Sure beats buying a brand new one for $15,000.
Right.
And you can pick these up all day long for under $1,000. Put a few hundred into them, and you got a solid machine. Go have some fun, go tear up the trails, and know your neighbors.
How about if someone bought one of these themselves? Are the books available? Tell me a little bit about that.
You can get service manuals online. The service manuals are still readily available. If you want to sell one, Kelly Blue Book online is a good reference point. Or just search Craigslist. You'll see similar machines, and base your price on that. That's pretty much what's selling, how much you're selling for. Just go that route, or bring it on in. We can make you an offer. We buy used machines, all sorts. Doesn't matter what brand, year, size. We'll buy it.
Thank you, Ron, for your great advice. The tool store has tools. If you're a mechanic like me and work out of your home, you don't have a Snap-on truck coming by and showing you new tools. Any tool you need, they have right here for cars, trucks, automobiles, and Cory's going to tell us all about it.
We're here at the tool store on South Harlem in Forest View. Could take some time and just show you some of my tools. I have your floor jack section, I have your hydraulic, your air assist, your transmission jacks, and pretty much any kind of jack you would need for your job. Right down here, I have my air compressors, which is my most valued section of the store, I believe. If it was a paint and body shop, I'd show them what's recommended horsepower they'd need for their compressor. If they're in trucking business and need for roadside service, what kind of compressor I would advise to get for them. So yeah, this is pretty much my biggest valued section of my store that I put a lot of work into is the air compressors. All your different air hose, Snap-on, Flexzilla, Goodyear, Lincoln, Tecton. I have every air hose pretty much you'd need. Your bottle jacks, very important for your trucking guys in the business there. You got your 12 tons, your 20 tons, your stubbies, your longs, your double stage. For the job here is very important. You know, especially the air guys. I know for trucking, this is one of the biggest important factors is having a good air-operated bottle jack. Everything here, your high-style trans jacks, your double stage, your cherry pickers, your engine stands, your underhoist stands, your jack stands, and especially my favorite boy right here, which is my fast lift, magic lift. Guys that need to demount semi-truck tires, they'll use one of these guys, and they'll use one of these guys right here to pop that tire off the rim.
Yes.
Or if you're feeling going big time, you buy one of these. Its little brother, the Blue Cobra bar, does the same thing as a TNT bar, just not as flashy.
Right.
Here, your KD and Lyle, also fantastic specialty tools, USA made. Dark red's KD, the light red being Lyle. Important tools, your seal drivers.
Right.
For your trucking guys.
Yes.
Radiator pressure tester. Your disc brake caliper tools, your fan clutch, your harmonic balancer, your ball joint press. All that very, very important tools that sometimes you can't find at a normal store. Right here, your circuit testers, your Power Probe 2, your Power Probe 3, your scan tools.
That's right. For all your cars, all you gotta do is plug in nowadays, and you got the computers, right?
Plugged in there. It should tell you what's wrong. It can take off a check engine light.
Right.
You know, those are pretty much a must also, as well for anybody that needs to diagnose a problem with their car.
Right. Yeah.
Back here we have, over here we start with my sockets.
And your Torx.
Oh, and all that.
Right.
Sunex, a brand that a lot of people don't know about. From Taiwan, but lifetime warranty, stronger than most American-made sockets.
Right.
same as a Craftsman at Sears, you just hand it right over the counter to me and I'd give you a new one.
Right,
These
right.
are all my
It's all lifetime guaranteed.
all lifetime guaranteed.
Right.
All my 3/8 sockets right here. I got your swivels, your deeps, your longs, your hexes, your 6/12 points. All my bigger sockets, my 1/2 inch, my extension sets, my adapters. Down there I have my 1 inch and 3/4 socket sets.
Thank you, Cory. And now Dave is going to talk about the carburetor for that Vespa scooter and how it should be cleaned properly and why.
All right, I took the carburetor off the Vespa 150, and you could see immediately when you open it up, instead of it being the bright shiny color, it's green. That's from the gasoline sitting in it. And you could see there's buildup of sludge in the bottom by the bowl drain. And of course, there's a coating of it across the float. Now, that float is very crucial for your mixture. That's where your rich, lean mixture comes from, as a float. Now, if they're caked like that, they're going to weigh more, and they're not going to float where they're supposed to. Hangs down like this. The needle should be about closed right when it's like straight across. Now, you know, like a boat in the water, you put more people on it, it's going to come down, so your float level is going to be off. You've got your main jet, you've got your idle jet, you've got for the choke, and these are little tiny little passages that have an orifice in there, very small, maybe size of diameter of a strand of hair. And as you could see how corroded that is in there, well, down inside here is where that orifice is, and it's just like goo in there. So obviously that's why it's not getting any gas. It was getting gas into the bowl, so the needle and seat here on the float are doing their job. That is wide open. Your float level goes down. It pulls this needle off of this seat. As the carburetor fills up, it reaches the level, and just like your toilet, it shuts off, and you got no more flow after that until it's needed. So that regulates and keeps the amount of fuel in the bowl consistent, and this level makes up a big difference in your fuel air ratio, keeping it as close to 15.1 as you possibly could get it. Also, the jets will dictate performance. So anyway, you want to maintain the proper mixture when you're running. So these jets are made to only let a certain amount of fuel through, and then the other one is consistent. Now you've got your throttle on the one side, so as you turn the throttle, the twist grip up on the bar, this will open, allowing air. But now you also have to, as you're allowing more air to come in, you have to have more fuel come in. That's where the diaphragm comes in, and as the RPMs build and the vacuum starts to come up, pulls on a diaphragm in the top here, which is countered by a spring, and allows this needle to come up. This needle restricts through the jet, so that will allow nothing to flow at idle, because it's got its own idle circuit that comes through it. But this is your main circuit. That's what actually gets you down the road when you've got your RPM up and your speed going. The other jet is for idle. You got an idle circuit. You've got the idle mixer screw, which is a D-slot type on this. There's a tool that goes on there, and just like on the old school car carburetors, you actually tune it to achieve your best idle. You go through, you clean everything up, put in new gaskets, new needle and seat, put it back together, and it's good as a new carburetor. You don't have to buy a new one, as long as the mechanical parts of it, like your throttle shaft, are tight. You could just rebuild it, and you're not sacrificing any quality. And depending on who does it, may even be better than a brand new one, because who knows who put that one together.
So parts are readily available as far as the gaskets and everything needed. So cleaning this, what do you recommend to use to clean the...
We've got, it's a Hydro Seal. They call it Hydro Seal, and it's usually, we get it in like a 5-gallon bucket with a metal lid on it, and it's got a basket, a metal basket with a grid on the bottom. You put the carburetor, once you take all the pieces out, there's a lot of pieces on here that cannot go into that Hydro Seal, like the float. You know, this is made of plastic. This will melt in the Hydro Seal. So you have to clean that in a different manner. Usually I spray it down with carburetor cleaner and either blow it off. Some of them you actually gotta get them, get that buildup off there, and you could actually wipe it off and using some solvent. But the housing itself is all little passages throughout the entire carburetor that flow for your idle circuit and your main circuit.
And this is a CB carburetor, so
Yes,
it
it
does have a rubber
Yep, it's got the
boot on the top.
It's got the diaphragm on the top that's counter spring loaded to keep it in the shut position as vacuum builds.
And it's vacuum that causes
it to open, right.
So is this Vespa have electric start, or is it a kick start?
It's electric.
Is there any kick on it, or?
There is a backup.
There is a backup.
Yeah, just in case you go somewhere, maybe who knows what could happen, but they do have a kickstart feature on them there. Not as easy to use as a normal kickstart on a non-electric start, but in a pinch, they'll get you going down the road. You can't push start them, you can't roll down the hill, start them, there's no clutch. So being that they're an automatic, they needed a way to still be able to get it started even if you get out somewhere and your battery dies. So that's what they got the kickstart on there.
So let me point out something I know about Vespa, which is pretty unique. The whole beauty of a Vespa, going all the way back to the beginning, is it's always been a uni construction. In the early days, and I'm going to look at the engine, the early days they had a separate swinger.
Right.
And then the engine was hooked to the swinger.
Engine as the swinger.
And now, starting probably in 1970 or so, then the engine itself became the swinger.
Right, exactly. And the only, nice economical way to get around, especially if you're going short distances. I see a lot of people in the neighborhoods where the train runs through and they catch the train to go downtown, and instead of having to have their significant other, their neighbor, or Uber take them to the train station, I mean, there's no place to park for the train. So you find a corner and it'll be like a bicycle park, what used to be a bicycle, and loaded with scooters.
Thank you, Dave, Cory, and Ron. For more information on the tool store, give them a call at 708-484-2442. Their website is toolstorechicago.com. They're on South Harlem Avenue, Forest View, toolstorechicago.com. To get a hold of me, it's teamdan45@gmail.com. Remember to search on YouTube with Dan Schmitt Motorcycle Racing for great motorcycle racing action.